this could be the beginning of the end. And I think that if it was that both of them would want it done slowly, because it's a terrible thing to admit for Harry that it's all gone wrong because he was such a fool. And she doesn't want to do that unless she could really say, I'm so successful that I really can't have him anymore. But then you've got the problem of the children, you've got the problem of drugs, you've got the problem of all sorts of things, that it's incredibly difficult and complicated. And they might decide just to live away from each other, but meet when they can get one of these phony royal trips.
It's certainly the beginning, I believe, of separate lives. Harry and Meghan's week apart. Angela Levin, I want to go through this because there has been some terrible PR for the Sussexes. And I believe that you thought a lot of his behaviour in New York, where his solo visit began, was quite disrespectful.
Yes. I thought one of the ones was when he was talking to a group of people about the Diana Awards. And he said to two girls, he called them guys. And I always think that's quite awful. They're not guys, they're girls, it's sort of. Anyway, he said that, and he then went into a long conversation that his mother would have absolutely loved it. She would have been so keen on them, and she would have been delighted that they behaved in that manner. Well, number one, a child of 12 can't remember what his mother did and didn't approve of. Number two, after a few years, he and William agreed that they would not bring their mother's likes and dislikes up into the world and talk about them. They would leave that. They felt that it was unnecessary. So it looks as if he was using it for PR purposes, so that people would say, oh, yes, of course, here's the second one in the family. It's wonderful, and he knows her so well. Of course he doesn't. He does feel that she's looking down still from above, but that's not the same. And talking about to people like that, as if he's the master of his late mother, I think he's awful.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Although for me, Angela, the whole thing was overshadowed by his very obvious onset of a midlife crisis. Because how else can you explain this 40-year-old who's meant to be mature and a dad deciding that, oh, the moment I'm going to get a tattoo is when I've got a massive security operation behind me and lots of media. He wanted everyone to know. I found it really embarrassing. So this was the footage of him arriving at the tattoo parlor. And then, of course, everyone knew about it. So sure enough, everyone's talking about East Side Ink, the trendy tattoo parlor that he went to. And Josh Lord, who is the guy who probably was his tattooist, spoke to the media.
Well, nothing, of course.
Nothing.
No, absolutely.
We heard he stopped by here.
Oh, yeah?
And
So he stopped for over an hour.
Oh, cool.
What was he like just in the tattoo parlor?
The truth is that I couldn't tell you anything about anybody who stopped by without their permission. So we can either confirm or deny anything you'd say or ask about anybody who comes in. So officially, and of course we would respect anybody's privacy in the exact same way. So, from everything that I've seen, it seems like a phenomenal guy.
You said that you've tattooed a lot of celebrities. Can you compare what it would be like if he were here? I mean, how does he rank? I mean, I assume you don't get starstruck. I mean, how's that different?
I absolutely understand the line of questioning, and I appreciate it. But of course, I could never actually say anything either way.
I mean, Angela, I'm sorry. Forget the boasting about illegal drug use. This is the ultimate sign of a midlife crisis, and very telling, actually, that he decides to go and get a tattoo without his wife.
Yeah, well, this is really, he's 40. He's just doesn't have his wife sort of breathing down his neck all the time, telling him what to do. And he just decides he wants to be naughty. This is the side of a naughty boy, isn't it? So he would rush off. I don't know, did he actually get one, or did he just spend time there? Do we know?
Well, of course we don't know, but my assumption is that you don't go to a tattoo parlor on your own with all of the media watching, all of your security guards, without getting a tattoo. So I imagine he now has some sort of cringeworthy tattoo somewhere on his body, and at some point he will reveal it.
Yeah, but he could also play tricks and pretend he's getting it so that he thinks that's one-upmanship. I mean, that's also a naughty boy's approach, isn't it? He doesn't want to be found out. He wants people to think that he's been terrible, but he hasn't really. On the other hand, he has. Either of that was very, very childish, and I think shows that he's not yet mature enough to be 40 by any means.
Yeah, indeed. The other really odd one was his appearance on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. Because The Tonight Show is an institution in New York, okay, but it's the type of program that you go on with Jimmy Fallon if you have something to promote, usually. So a celebrity goes on to talk about their book or their new single or their movie, whatever. That's how it works. And you give a couple of nice lines and you're selling the product. But in this case, Harry wasn't promoting anything, and he ended up selling Jimmy Fallon's Halloween ride, which again just felt very bizarre to me. I mean, look, Jimmy Fallon gave this interview actually sort of boasting about the fact that he had Prince Harry there.
You got Tonightmares going on as well.
Get ready for what Tonightmares was so fun. We just did it with Prince Harry. It was insane. The best part, we did it with Prince Harry, and the actors dressed as the zombies at the end. Both have with security cameras around them, and they have a freak out. And the one zombie goes, "Oh my gosh!" He goes, "Watch!" He goes, "That was Prince Harry." And the other zombie's like, and they start doing this. It steals the show. It's super fun. He was a great guest. Totally game for it. It's scary, but it's fun.
So Angela, I mean, how odd that Harry is now essentially pimping out his royal name to NBC Universal to promote a Halloween ride. I mean, we don't know if money exchanged hands. Personally, I don't think Harry actually appeared very well within the clip because he was swearing, which I thought was very unbecoming. And at one point, he also went to punch someone. Now, was it a joke, or does he still have anger management issues going on?
No, I'm sure it was a joke, but it was completely out of order. I mean, if you go around in New York or anywhere and you're talking to people about your concerns and climate change and how they should behave and not go online and all those sorts of things, with very serious, very depressing look on his face, but how vital it is, otherwise we're all going to die. And then he goes off and behaves like a truant. I mean, it's really a truant child, and that's completely inappropriate. I mean, to go from one to the other takes away 99% of what it achieved in the first part.
Yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree.
No dignity.
There was no dignity in it at all. But what I just couldn't work out is why. Why is he doing this? Is it for money? Is it because he wants to be on side with NBC Universal, but actually Netflix, who are his bosses, I imagine will be pretty annoyed about that. He didn't speak about his charity projects. He didn't speak about why he was in New York. He was there effectively pimping out his status as a member of the royal family to promote a ride, which is going to make Jimmy Fallon and NBC Universal lots of money. That's something a C-list celebrity does, not a prince, not someone who remains in the line of succession to become King of England. I found it bizarre. I also loved this moment, Angela, where the Royal Grift, which is a very good X account, was able to actually point out the hypocrisy about Harry and the media. Because, of course, he has been going on for so long, hasn't he, about how much he hates the tabloids and how they are a terrible thing for society. But in New York, the royal grift actually spots him face to face with People magazine, Town and Country, and Vanity Fair. So look at this.
Vanity Fair, Town and Country, People, all doing wonderful.
To what extent do you think that your determination to fight the tabloids destroyed the relationship with your family?
I think there's, that's certainly a central piece to it. But you know, I think everything that's played out has shown people what the truth of the matter is. For me, the mission continues, but it's caused, as you say.
But there's no mission, Angela, because there he is hobnobbing with the tabloids in New York.
Yes. I mean, he's a mixed up kid, isn't he, really? And I think he got very excited that he was free and behaved very badly. I mean, he often did that when he was younger. He could be marvelous for a while and then suddenly be ridiculous. On the last day of his training to be a soldier, they have very strict rules of when they have to go to bed and things, or be in the room. And he and a friend went off to a strip show, and you know, the girl he saw there, or who saw him, phoned up all the newspapers, and he nearly didn't get the award that he would have for finishing the time training. And this was it. He does sort of do that when everything's going well. Suddenly something happens and he just goes off, and it spoils his life and it spoils everything that he wants to do. And we haven't seen them so much, so we don't know how bad it is. But if it's still the same as what Harry did when he was, you know, young, and it's very sad that he hasn't got over that by now.
No, indeed. Now, we didn't see Meghan this week at all, Angela, but it was a very, very bad week for the Duchess of Sussex, because look, we have been exposing what's really been going on with Meghan for years now. We've told the truth about Meghan for years. But the American media, especially the Hollywood media, Angela, has been slavishly in her pocket. And there's been a bit of an anti-British feeling about it. There's been an anti-tabloid feeling about it. In the course of quite an astonishing 14 days, that has all turned around. We first saw the Hollywood Reporter pull their support. We then saw Newsweek magazine pull their support. We then saw the Daily Beast pull their support. And the revelations about this woman's behavior in the American media have come thick and fast. Look, I know that we can sit here and say, oh, keep up. We told you all of this 2, 3, 4 years ago. But that's not really the point, is it? The point is Hollywood has now turned against Meghan Markle. It has been a significant moment in terms of her media relations.
Yes, she's obviously terrified, and that's why we're not seeing her. But she did come out when Harry was getting his time, and she sort of ripped that away from him because she got friends to talk to Us Weekly to counter.
Well, it completely overshadowed his New York trip. Completely overshadowed it.
Yes, and that's because she can't be left behind. She has to be in the front. And so I thought that was a shame for Harry, whatever happened and the wrong things he did, that she actually should have been quiet for a bit. And I think it's very wrong that she got people to say how kind she was and caring. And the gentleman who left after 3 months, because he obviously didn't like it, he said that he was very well welcomed. Now, that means nothing. I think there were several people who were asked who said these things that mean nothing and say, I loved it, but just that they were very helpful. It doesn't, all those things don't mean anything. And calling her kind and caring is a nonsense, because a lot of the time she seemed to treat them like children, with her as the mother, and give them sweeties or give them little presents. But actually, I can't imagine anyone who's quite mature, in their 20s or in their early 30s, who wants to work for her and is treated as if they're little children, because she is the master woman there. And I thought that was actually dreadful.
Well,
But,
it's just...
um,
Oh, sorry, you go.
yeah, I was just going to say that the thing is about the magazines, my view is that they haven't counted for much, because it's been very easy to see how poorly her behaviour has been. I mean, if I can just tell you, the one is in September 21, when she and Harry went to Angola to follow Princess Diana's bravery at walking across landmines. And a lot of the children around there had lost their legs, and others had been raped. A lot of the children got raped. And Meghan was actually focusing on herself, moaning that people weren't asking enough how she was. That's one. The two, she ignored Buckingham Palace on March 2021, who asked her to delay the interview with Oprah Winfrey as the Duke of Edinburgh was dying. This was March 21. He passed the following month, but she wouldn't wait. And I think that was beyond cruel, because if he'd been even tiny well enough to know what happened on that terrible interview, he would be desperately upset. In May 22, she turned up unasked at Uvalde, Texas, where mass shooting had taken place in a school. And she brought with her 3 photographers to show her compassion, and then went away. Now, we know that she tells lies, and there's loads and loads of other things like that. So actually, a magazine telling you it doesn't count to too much, because if you watch or you hear and you listen and you see that she has difficulties, that's being polite.
First, though, have you ever wondered what happened to the legendary Chuck Norris? Well, I recently saw a video he made, and I was shocked. He's in his 80s and still kicking butt and working out and staying active. What's even more shocking is he's stronger, can work out longer, and even has plenty of energy left over for his grandkids. He did this by just making one change. He says he still feels like he's in his 50s. His wife even started doing this one thing too, and she's never felt better. She says she feels 10 years younger. Her body looks leaner, and she has energy all day. Chuck made a special video that explains everything. Make sure you watch it by going to chuckdefense.com/outspoken, or by clicking in the link in the show notes below this video on YouTube and Rumble. It will change the way you think about your health. Once again, that's chuckdefense.com/outspoken, and click on the link in the description below to watch the video now. You simply will not believe how simple it is. Just a reminder, the legendary Chuck Norris is a whopping 84 years old, and I have to be honest, he has more energy than me. He discovered he could create dramatic changes to his health, simply focusing on 3 things that sabotage our body as we age. So watch his method by clicking the link in the description box below, but I'll give it to you now as well, chuckdefense.com/outspoken, or you can also scan on the QR code on screen right now. Yes, indeed. That has been very polite, because Angela, we also had Hugo Vickers emerge this week with news about Meghan's behaviour when she was at Frogmore Cottage. And again, I knew right back in, I think it was 2018, that Catherine and Meghan had fallen out over the way that Meghan was speaking to staff members at Kensington Palace. But had she learnt her lesson? No. She moves to Frogmore Cottage. She's incredibly rude to one of the junior gardeners. And according to Hugo Vickers, the late Queen Elizabeth II wasn't having any of it. This is an extraordinary revelation. I'll get your reaction after.
Hugo.
Well, I'm afraid I'm not surprised by these allegations, because even when she was at Windsor, I remember, hearing from very good sources that there was trouble. There was a time when she was very rude to one of the under gardeners at Windsor when they were at Frogmore Cottage, and the head gardener went to complain to the Queen, and the Queen went down and ticked her off because the Queen obviously didn't like people being rude to staff. So having heard that story, none of these other stories surprise me. She probably is not very good with staff or with people that she's employing or people that she's getting flowers from and things like that. It's just very unattractive because you should always be very polite to people who work for you and people that you deal with over the telephone, because otherwise they're going to get very put out, and they're going to, when things start going wrong, they'll be happy to answer questions by the media, I guess. Well, I think probably quite a lot of actresses have a narcissistic side to them. Yes, I agree with you. Of course, it can be very stressful leading up to a wedding, but once again, this is when your true character comes out. If you're we can all be very polite. When things are going well. It's when we're under stress that you see people getting annoyed and getting aggressive and so forth. So once again, I'm afraid it doesn't surprise me. I would think she has shown quite a few narcissistic tendencies in the past, particularly in things like the Oprah Winfrey interview. I think there was a lot of narcissism in that.
So Angela, the late Queen, had the measure of Meghan Markle, didn't she?
Yes, she did. I mean, she was very good at seeing through people. But I had heard about that story. I was absolutely surprised that she obviously felt so angry that she stormed round there and told her off. It seems that it was a very, very important for Her Majesty that people were treated nicely. And if you go in and out of Buckingham Palace and the other palaces, you see that the staff are treated as if they're family. They're not talked as if they're sort of under anybody else. They are talked as if they're family. And Meghan, I think, because she was brought up in a very different way, she thought that she had to play the Queen over them and tell them off and keep them in order. But that's not how it works. It's a terrible thing to do.
Yeah, indeed. And the thing is, Angela, even for Meghan's biggest supporters now, do they not realise that there's example after example after example of this? I mean, I even remember before the wedding, Meghan being absolutely horrible to the catering staff, for example, because she wasn't happy with the vegan options being provided on her wedding day. I mean, this is diva behaviour with a capital D.
Yes, well, I think she's had that all the time. Once she knew what she was going to get, that's what she was like. But if you look at the very early photographs of her that her father allows people to see, you see her pretending to be a princess when she looks about 6, 7, 8, and she goes around bossing everybody off like you've never seen. I mean, it's absolutely shocking. It's it's very, very unpleasant. And I think nothing has changed. She sees things in a different way. She is the head of everything, and therefore she can talk down to anyone else.
And you think Harry might have figured this out?
If you look, actually, there's a thing at Wimbledon, and she wanted to sit with nobody anywhere near her. She did that once, and then she sat next to Catherine, and a woman came up and sat next to her and started talking, and she just looked at her with the most terrible face. She wouldn't say anything to her because she obviously felt she was too grand. Whereas Catherine will talk to anyone in a very nice way. She's not snobby at all. And if you see that, I mean, the cameras were on her, and she just wouldn't say, she just looked ahead and didn't answer. So that's how she feels. She should behave, but it's completely wrong, won't get her anywhere, and not in this world. You see, she doesn't like the fact that you have to curtsy to the Queen and you have to be very polite and all that. But she can be as rude as she likes. It's one of those things that don't work with her at all.
And you think Harry is starting to figure this out? He's not impressed with this sort of behaviour anymore? Because you have to admit, for a long time, he tried to defend all of this behaviour.
Yes, yeah, well, told everybody off. I was very angry. Well, I think that's going back to what this trip might be. I mean, is he thinking about, I can't stand this anymore? Is she thinking about, I can't stand his tricks anymore? This could be the beginning of the end. And I think that if it was that both of them would want it done slowly, because it's a terrible thing to admit for Harry that it's all gone wrong because he was such a fool. And she doesn't want to do that unless she could really say, I'm so successful that I really can't have him anymore. But then you've got the problem of the children, you've got the problem of drugs, you've got the problem of all sorts of things, that it's incredibly difficult and complicated. And they might decide just to live away from each other, but meet when they can get one of these phony royal trips.
It's certainly the beginning, I believe, of separate lives. But I agree with you, this is going to be very slowly for all of those reasons that you have outlined. Now let's talk about the real royals, Angela. Queen Camilla and Charles really bonding with Camilla's son, Tom Parker Bowles. What do you know about that?
Well, I know for a long time that Charles was Tom's, his, what's the word? Do you know the word? Sorry, I can't remember the word.
Support.
No, not support, but when you're born and somebody is your...
Oh, stepson.
No, you look after them and you part of the family and you treat them nicely. Gosh, how embarrassing. I can't think of it.
I can't either, but we get what you mean.
Yes, he thought that the king is the nicest man in the world because he's known him since he was a tot, and he always looked after him. He was fun, he was kind, and I think that's quite nice for the king, who actually has all this trouble with his son, that he has a son in law that he really likes and cares a lot. There refutes portraits of Queen as a heavy drinker.
Oh yes, I was going to ask you about that, because I just saw that article earlier, because he seemed quite passionate about that. He says he's never seen the Queen drunk.
Yes, I think she was trained by her father to enjoy very good wine. He had a job looking after wine, and he taught her how to do that. And she never really wanted to get drunk. She just wanted to enjoy the wine. She wasn't after sort of rolling around. She was quite controlled. Yes, I think that as well, that in his book, in Tom's cookery book, he says how much he loves his mother and that she's extremely proud of her, and she cooks very nicely, or she likes to cook quite plainly, a lot of chicken, and that he's very grateful. And I think that it could be very awkward for him when his mother becomes queen. It's not something you know much and see much, and I think he's very proud of both of them.
What's going on with Zara and Mike Tyndall, Angela? Because they are the royal couple who we love, and they avoid scandal, don't they? But I think sometimes they're not celebrated enough.
No, I agree with you. I think they're a remarkable couple, and you really think that Mike Tyndall, who came from an ordinary home, and he's managed to stay within the family without any trouble whatsoever. He accepts it. He behaves very well, with occasional little naughty bits, but he's very well liked. William gets on with him brilliantly. And I think that he has managed to fit in very nicely. He looks after their 3 children, 2 girls and a boy. When Zara is practicing riding or competing, and he doesn't feel that anything's too much for him or not. But now I was reading that they've built a £30 million empire through brands and partnerships and deals. Now, they don't get anything from the crown. They don't have titles, but they work very, very hard.
Yeah, and it just shows you can do it. You can do it without having to slag off your relatives and sort of go rogue.
Yes.
You know, you can do it because you're right. They do it very respectfully, actually. Other big news.
Yes.
Sorry, Angela.
Yeah, but just that, if you see how she hugs the king, and he obviously loves her very much, and she's very happy with, very nice to him.
And William
full
loves
of,
her.
Full of happiness and energy. I think she has a very happy marriage.
And they stayed very loyal to William and Catherine over Harry and Meghan. I know that for a fact. Now, we had other big royal news as well this week, Angela. Princess Beatrice pregnant with her second child. Now, you had been hearing that she might have been going to step up her role in the royal family. So will this pregnancy perhaps delay that, or what are you hearing?
I think it's bound to, because the baby is due in the beginning of the year, I think February or March, and she won't be able to do very much then. But I think it's lovely for her because she's had a lot of difficulty in her life. And I think that to have found the right man and to have, 2 children and her husband's child from a previous relationship, which she seems to love and he seems to love her. And I think that that's lovely. And I'm very, very pleased for her. She also doesn't show her baby. We don't think we've seen her daughter. I think she's 3 now, but she doesn't want her to be up in the public. And so she's not, there's no complaints, there's no asking for protection. They just get on with it and enjoy their lives together. And I think we should congratulate her. Then the news was outed this afternoon, so that's very nice to hear.
Yeah, congratulations to Beatrice. And finally, Angela, what is going on with the Earl of Snowden, who divorced, I think, a couple of years ago now, I think. Maybe
yes,
maybe a few. There he was with the ex. That was the ex-wife.
Yes.
And so what? He's got a new woman in his life.
Got a new woman who he was kissing passionately at a table, and of course somebody snapped it and thought, "Oh, good." But I'm pleased for him because King invited me up to Dumfries House, that's in Scotland, and he was there, and we had a talk. And he says he feels he's got no money, he's alone. He was feeling very sad. It wasn't sad for himself. I just managed to get out a few interesting points of what he was feeling. The king actually had given him the job of keeping British craft alive, which is actually what he loved. He had a furniture shop and business, and I think he sold that. He got quite well. I don't know why that happened. Perhaps in the marriage he had to give up a lot of money. But it was very nice to see that the king has looked after him and given him a job that's important in his eyes. And I think that's very nice. And if he's found somebody who he wants to settle down with, that is very nice too.
Yes, indeed. And of course, his real name, for people who maybe know him as that, was David Albert Jones, wasn't it? And of course,
yes,
the son of, I think the only son of Princess Margaret. Yes. Lovely stuff. Yeah. Well, look, Angela, another big week in the royal family. Goodness knows what will happen in 7 days' time, but we will speak then. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are. You can subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and I've put some of the links in the show notes below this video. Keep watching our Outspoken clips to support this independent news venture with no spin, no bias, and no censorship, unlike the MSM. Most importantly, I promise to keep fighting for you.